our senses, right? We can see, taste, touch, smell, and hear.
They came up out the forest, they looked into my room. I was only 4 years old, I didn't know what to do. I was playing muscle man with a friend, I think the dude was named Vernon. He saw the M16s and stepped away from the curtains, and they kicked in the door. This is the DEA. They saw my father, and then they fucked up his face, and they cruised up the stairs with their M16s. They busted into my room and scared the fuck out of me. I saw my mama, I said, what the fuck's happening? She said, we're busted. I said, what the fuck does that mean? She said, for growing the weed under the basement floor. I said, the plant that dad smoked. She said, but there's more. They're gonna take up our house. They're gonna take all your toys. They're gonna take away data. They're gonna put them in bars. They're gonna take all our money. They're gonna take all your cake. The next day was my birthday. I'm not being fake. These motherfuckers, they're called the DEA. They're called the CIA. They're called the NSA. And today, they listen to everything that you say, but you don't give a fuck. You just go about your day. You're not American. Fire on everyone, and we pretend that we're dumb. We sell all our metadata. It's worth more than a sum, but they don't give us back none because they know that we're numb. We got some stupid motherfuckers that just want to be safe, and they'll give up their freedoms, man. They'll give up their say. They spend $1 million on education just to join up the slaves. You're not American. Dangerous Thoughts!
Brah! Welcome to Dangerous Thoughts, everybody. The podcast that dives headfirst into the shadowy realms of reality, exploring the edges where most fear to tread, but not us. We have no fear. Fear is the mind killer. We question everything, and we fear nada. Squat diddly do. Duh! From the mysteries of consciousness to the unsettling truths lurking behind the facade of everyday life. And believe me, there are some unsettling truths lurking behind the facades of everyday life. I don't like talking about the darkness, but it's there. We peel back the layers to reveal the raw and unfiltered essence of existence. And tonight, we have a really, really cool guest. Her name is Alethea Jacob, and she has had a connection to the other side and has been a psychic and a life coach since she was 7 years old. She was laying in her bedroom, and might not have been her bedroom, but she was laying in a room in Yonkers, New York. And she told me backstage that she started to see these things that looked like fireflies, which actually my wife has seen. My heterosexual life mate, Val, who's a witch, by the way, if you guys didn't know that. She saw these little light sources that when she got up close, they looked like pixies. She said she had that experience at 8 years old here in Colorado. So apparently those little spirits are everywhere if you want to see them. And if you don't want to see them, you can just be, one of those negative people that turns off their thought and they just, listen to everything that the society and the ruling elite program you to believe. And you can just walk around working for a living, paying your taxes and eating fast food. Boring. The world is so much more magic than that. There's these giant, huge nuclear furnaces called stars. One of them, it's called the sun. It's really close to us. Anyway, join us as we embark on this journey together, pushing boundaries and shattering illusions. We are one of the voices, not the voice. The script says the voice in the darkness. We're not the voice. We're just one of many, but we're a strong one, right, Tyson?
I would say so, yeah.
Prepare to expand your mind and confront the unknown. First, we have to talk about what happened this week. We always like to just Tyson, you're
Tyson is like 32-bit right now.
Oh, he's
maybe even like
I am
16-bit.
What happened to my resolution? You can't see it? Am I jittery?
Yeah, you look like you don't look jittery. You look like I just these glasses are not working.
Yes.
Okay, it's not on my side. You froze a couple of times, so
your face
I'm
is
good.
like 6 pixels, Tyson.
Yeah. We're gonna rename you Tyson 6 Pixels Strasberg. But you're welcome to join us anytime my co-host 6 Pixels over here wants to join us. Welcome to Dangerous Thoughts, the most provocative podcast on earth. Debatable, but still, are you ready to think dangerously? We are. Even though you can't see Tyson, what happened this week?
Okay, I'll tell you what happened.
The original Minecraft.
Yeah, you look like definitely.
So big news: the star Betelgeuse finally went supernova, which is
Oh,
huge.
wow. That
Yeah, but
is
it's going
huge.
to take 600 years before we realize it because it's 600 light years away.
So
So how do we know?
Yeah.
That was a joke. That was the joke. Thank you. Very good.
Oh, wait a second. It was a joke? It didn't go supernova?
I shouldn't have said shit. He would have gone, Manu would have gone right along with it.
Man, I was excited to talk about that.
Oh my goodness.
Come on, wait a second. We've got what's the new one up there? The David Johnson Space Telescope or whatever it's called. What's it called?
Oh, well, there's a lot of them. I think it's a James Webb.
The new one, the
James,
Webb.
Yeah, the
there
James
we go.
Webb.
Not the David Johnson, but James, good old James Webb. He can see 13.5 light years into the past. So couldn't he see?
Right. Well, yeah, but if Betelgeuse exploded today, we wouldn't see it for 600 years because that's how long it would take for the light to travel to us.
So it
the
can't
light
look.
Still has to hit the telescope.
It still has to hit the telescope. Ah,
right.
So the only thing that could tell us is something like these pixies that Alethea Jacob saw when she was 7. They could tell us, but they couldn't show us, right? Or they could. They could.
Well, yeah, if they travel faster than light, then I assume. Am I still pixely?
No, you're back. Something magic just happened. The pixies showed up and cleared you up. You look good.
Oh,
Tyson.
I had you for a while.
Yeah, you even did your hair, man. I would love to talk about the star Betelgeuse, but I'd rather anything else happen important this week, because this week my heterosexual life mate that also saw pixies when she was young, she was having seizures like crazy. She actually, it was very strange. I watched this documentary called The Staircase, which if you have empathy in your heart and you're a real human being, you should absolutely watch. It's on Netflix. It's called The Staircase. And it's about this writer in Raleigh, North Carolina, that got framed by the pigs for killing his wife and thrown in jail. And it makes you cry at least 10 or 12 times watching this documentary. Absolutely amazing. I got lost in it. What was my point? Pixies, Staircase.
And Dave
Johnson Space Telescope.
James Webb. But
James
hey,
Webb.
if you got Johnson's on the mind, that's on you.
All right, you went right back to pixelated when we started dick jokes. So let's leave the dick jokes till the end of the show. Man, I had a point. Basically, just be empathetic and care about people, because wow, this show was so good, and there was a better point than that, but that's a pretty damn good point. So I want to talk about the nature of reality. Oh, that was it. So all right, sorry. So Val, we watched this thing together, and it's a 16-hour marathon, right? And then it's heavy. I cried like 12, 16 times, maybe once an episode, watching this doc about this man and his family and how the government failed him and the justice system failed him and his family. And it made me realize, why don't I talk to my mom more? Why don't I hang out with my parents more? My close family. Like, why do we do this thing where we separate and we make reasons not to see each other more? You never know when your loved ones are going to get taken away. And that's why I tip my hat to you, Tyson, because you came home and took care of your mom in those last years, and you got that time. And I think that's beautiful. But Val was telling me about her family. And I said, look, Val, let me just wrap it all up for you. The ancient texts, as far back as we can go, say that spacefaring entities of some kind landed on this planet. They gave us a little genetic kick in the ass. Harvard just realized that they stopped our aging at 120. They actually changed that about our DNA. Or it happened by what's that guy with the islands and the monkeys? Darwin. Or it happened, Darwin. Or it happened by evolution. Anyway, these things from another planet in a galactic war were like, we're coming to Earth. We're going to change these what's it called, Homo erectus or whatever was walking around, and they made us, and they capped our lifespan at 120 years, and then they put a few reality barriers. Like first it was oceans, we got over the oceans. Now it's space, we got to figure out how to get past space. And then I think, you know, these things are going to start talking to us. And Val was like, Manu, you don't understand. I am from the Pleiades. My DNA is Pleiadian. And she said, my great great grandfather was part of one of the mystery schools. He was a big 31-degree Mason or whatever. And she's like, that's what we were all taught. We're all part of that. You're not, but I am. And she went and showed me a picture of him, and she was going to tell me more about the secrets of her Pleiades existence. But right when she did, they zapped her with something, and she had a full-on grand mal seizure. And she even started saying, seizure, 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 seizure. She sounded like, what are those things? Minions? She was just going, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. And she went down and she started shaking. And when she came out of the seizure, she started metronoming left and right, sort of like the alien that my mom saw at her bedside, except like she couldn't stop. And she was looking right at me, metronoming left and right, and going, oh, I can't stop it. I can't stop it. But she wasn't conscious at all. She doesn't have any memory of this happening. And when she finally came to, the first thing she said was, see, Manu, when I try to talk about it, they turn me off. It was pretty wild. But I spent going back to being like a boring person, we went to the hospital, got her some new medication, and Val's doing all right. But she's on a new seizure medication. And
I don't think I was part of the experiment. You know, when they came and they turned the primates into Homo sapiens, because this Homo still erectus. So you know, I don't think I was part of that.
That was a good one, Tyson. I like that one. You know, you're still Homo and erectus. Well,
boy.
Yeah. I'm not erectus at all anymore. I'll tell the world. I'm more asexual these days. It just don't have much of a sexual desire. It's a bummer. Maybe I should have the Pixies or the doctors fix that, one or the other. But I do want to bring on our guest this week because I do want to really dive into the nature of reality. And she has been getting voices from the other side and channeling and doing things like that for a while. So let's bring on Alethea Jacob. Welcome to the show, Alethea. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be fun.
Yes, thanks for having me on. And just a quick insight maybe of what was happening to Val, because I've witnessed the energy fields of people when they're having seizures. So that swaying afterwards, it's actually them recalibrating and getting their energy field back aligned with all their chakras and back aligned with their physical body, because they're really thrown out of it through the seizure. It's almost like having a spontaneous out-of-body experience, but without the consciousness going with it. And then they have to kind of realign everything back together after the episode.
She says it feels like she reboots.
Yeah.
And she also says that when she reboots and she finds herself back in this meat sack, blood sack, puppet avatar thing that we are, human. Right. She says that she sometimes doesn't realize, like she doesn't know if she's in the same reality that she left. And
sure.
She'll be very confused about like, okay, like where am I now? Did they reboot me somewhere else? Or am I in the same exact place that I was?
And technically it can't be the same because something has shifted energetically. So even if it appears to be the same, it's not. Something has shifted energetically.
Right.
That's the nature of the quantum field, right? You know, the moment we observe something, that wave collapses, right? When we're not observing, we're expanded out into the waveform of all there is, right? And then we have to come back to now. We have to reconsolidate ourselves into okay, what am I observing now in this moment? And then the next moment.
Schrodinger's cat, right?
Well, no, she's talking about the particle and the wave when we put our attention on it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
is that
like
Schrodinger's cat?
Well, sure. Well, that's another. It's another. It's another version of reality doesn't coalesce into something unless it's being observed.
Until an observer is looking at it.
Right. How do you know that we are here unless there's an interaction? We are meant to be interacting with each other. That's the nature of it. If you're a hermit in a cave somewhere, even in nirvana, are you really existing? Well, maybe not until you're interacting with something or someone or some presence. The nature of reality is really fun to debate because we are finite minds trying to understand the infinite. So by definition, it's impossible. So anybody who says, I have the answer, they're wrong. They're wrong.
Manu owes me $20 because I've been screaming that for the last 2 years.
Well, I was about to say, Tyson always says we are we're a species with 5. We can see, taste, touch, sound, and hear. You saw it at the opening of the show. We even got it.
When I was
every single show, he says that. And he goes, an amoeba only has 1 sense. So how does an amoeba know anything? And if we only have 4 more senses than an amoeba, what do we know about what's really going on?
So we have a sixth sense. We absolutely have a sixth sense. And I will argue with anybody.
I would argue we have like 9 or 10 senses.
We definitely have more because it's a human potential. The whole reason that we are here at all is that the ancestors in our lines had the intuition to know that cave has the saber-toothed tiger. That cave is empty and safe. Let's put the family in that cave tonight, right? We come from that. It's a human potential. We just happen to live in a world now where there's not, at least in most of the developed countries, there's not that imminent survival need to be in tune with your environment. So, there's a hostility there, there's friendly there, there's something good waiting around the corner, or don't go there at all, right? We don't need that typically for day-to-day survival anymore. Now it's much more to ramp it up to thriving. Okay, survival for most of us is a baseline. We got it. But how do we become the best possible version of ourselves? How do we fulfill the measure of creation for which we were born and chose to come down into this body and this time and this place in this environment with all the stuff going on? We have a choice.
And I don't think I was arguing against a sixth sense in the and as far as ESP
just
and so
common
forth.
senses I meant we have. Yeah.
Biologically, there may be entities out there that have 7, 8, 9 biological, like other ways to experience reality that we're biologically not capable of. That's where I was going.
Sure.
Like a dolphin can echolocate, and in its mind, it has a 3D picture based on that echolocation. That's a sense we don't have, right? What if there are other biological senses out there that would tell us more about reality that we just are unaware of?
Well, I'm pretty sure we're in the Matrix. We're in this whole simulation theory thing is really striking true to me because we build video games the same way Alethea was just talking about. You get the bonus, or you get away from the tiger, or you beat the tiger, or and also our brains in and of themselves, our gray matter works on electrical stimulus and electrical fields. And that, to me, that just is like more proof than anything that we're in some kind of a simulation. We run on electricity.
Right. And we also know
at least our brain. Our
body isn't it. Why? Because we have people that have had near-death experiences. I've known some very well personally that they can actually, they're outside of their body. Their consciousness is observing, they're hearing conversations, they're knowing different things. And they come back in, it's like, oh, wait, I'm not this body. Wait, there's something else beside that. And for people that if we were a body, there would be less of us if our leg got amputated because of war or disease or whatnot, right? We'd be like, okay, how little of us has
I'm only 75% Manu now.
Right. Like how much of us has to be gone physically before we're gone? Like, all of it, right? Because we are more than our physical body. That's the mantra, by the way, of the Monroe Institute. If you don't know about Monroe.
Well, I was about to ask you that. That was sort of my next question is, what is the Monroe Institute? Where did it start? How do you become a part of it? How do you join the cult?
It's not a cult, actually.
I know, I'm just joking. But what is the Monroe Institute?
It actually began back in the 1950s by a man named Robert Monroe. He was a businessman, a scientist, and somebody who really loved to experiment with sound. And so what he did is he started thinking there's got to be a scientific basis to shift brain waves to have experiences start to happen. And so over the last 70 years now, I guess, about 70 years, the Institute has been devoted to expanding consciousness using scientific methods and tools to assist in the process. And so they reverse engineer. So for example, one set of the early tapes was on how to achieve deep mystical states and deep meditation and relaxation. They wired up a bunch of monks that they had come in and watch their brainwave patterns as the monks would meditate. And these are master meditators, right? So very quickly, they're in this amazing state of bliss and they're tracking everything that happened. And then they said, all right, so we know what happens in the brain. This part lights up, then this part lights up, and then this one, and this one. And then voila, this person's having nirvana. Cool. So now they re-engineered it and said, we know how to stimulate certain parts of the brain with sound waves. So what would happen if we took your brain on that same journey? So we're the chauffeur. We're driving those brain waves for you. Do you get to that same result? And
do you?
Interestingly enough, you do. So
The
people that
Monroe
have never
Institute can
meditated,
give you like a nirvana thing just by giving you sound waves?
Yes.
Wow, that's really cool.
So they developed
go.
programs that use the various sound waves for different purposes. And then over the course of the years, they've refined how they can target, the different range of experiences that can be had, the different tools that they can integrate in there. So it's just a beautiful retreat center in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. It's just this gorgeous spot. It's definitely one of those sacred energy vortexes on the planet for sure. I mean, there's energy there that is unique because of the geomagnetics of the composition of the mountain, where it actually meets ley line and energy line wise. And the fact that it's been sustaining the intention of opening portals to expanded levels of consciousness and inviting the different interdimensional beings to work with us in benevolent ways.
Have they worked with hallucinogenics?
No, there's no drugs or alcohol allowed. They even recommend that you don't drink coffee unless you're used to that, and don't stop it. Do whatever you do.
I was hoping you were a hallucinogenic warrior, but see, I don't think of hallucinogenics as drugs because they're these natural
but you
things.
want to know here. See, when you're taking a
like if I was doing coke or any man-made chemical, that's a drug. But mushrooms grow in the ground.
Right. But the difference here is if you take any substance into your body, you got to ride that wave until it's out of your system. Mm-hmm. You're listening to headphones or earbuds or speakers in your unit, and you're having this amazing adventure and trip. If for whatever reason you want to stop, you just turn off the speaker, you take off your headphones, it stops instantly. And you're back to hearing.
So Monroe has never done any studies into hallucinogenics.
I don't know if they may have done studies to see what happens with the brainwave patterns of people that were having peyote experiences, to say, oh, okay, so if we want somebody to have a fun visual trip, okay, this is how we would stimulate it so we can have a freedom exercise, a free flow through consciousness exercise that might use some of the things they learned about the pathways of the brain when you're having a good trip, but they don't offer recreational type drugs experiences. They just use the sound and the sound waves and the Monroe sound science to stimulate and teach and have the experiences there.
See, because I was raised by like hippies, so Baba Ram Dass and Timothy Leary and all those guru guys.
Ram Dass was actually was the person who went with Bob Monroe up the mountain to help tune into what would be the pristine energy location to build the institute. That's part of
cool.
The Ram Dass
Ram Dass was like a really good friend of mine and a good friend of my father's more than me.
Cool. That's awesome.
But like when I was 16, I was like, I'm all convoluted. I'm spiritually messed up. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing on this earth. But Ram Dass, like, tell me what to do. And he said, eat some LSD. That's really what he told me. And I was like, really? I'm like, you suck. I thought you were like a spiritual guru that had all the answers. Like, what the fuck? That's all you got for me? Eat some LSD? Fine.
Well,
and then I ate some. And the next day, I was spiritually in tune completely. And he was right. That's what I needed.
Right. But you were ready for that. There's other people, if they were to just say, oh, let me take this drug, and they have no preparation, they've not really thought about.
They might jump off a roof, break their leg, and have a horrible trip. Yeah. Hallucinogenics work for about like 95% of people that are ready for it, and the other 5% get hurt.
Well, here's the fun thing. I could absolutely introduce you to someone. Right now, I'm at a friend's house in Sedona. I'm not calling you from.
Oh, wow. I love Sedona.
Right. Yeah. And he's a Western mystic and a shaman. Cool. And if he sits across from you and starts to glow, you think you'll be tripping on something. And like the whole room changes, the energy changes. And then when he shifts the energy back, it's all back to normal. So it's like, I was lucky enough to meet people like that when I was younger, that I'm like, you don't need to take drugs to have these mind altering, consciousness expanding, wow, look how pretty it's glowing kind of experience with your senses.
But
right?
You said leave your body. And the only times in my life that I've actually left my body, at least in my experience, and I'm sure there's ways to do it without hallucinogenics, but on ayahuasca and on DMT, I absolutely lost the whole idea of who Manu is, like the whole idea of I am completely left me. I was somewhere else. Whoever I was color, light, sound, and vibration. And it wasn't Manu, but it was me, and it was outside of my body. And when that thing came back to my body, I was aware that everyone else that I looked at, you and Tyson, and were all me, and I was them, and we really were this really interconnected thing. Like for me or you or Tyson to say that we're separate really is sort of an illusion, because we're made up of the same stuff. We've had slightly different experiences, but we're the same stuff, right?
Well,
I've only had one out-of-body experience in my entire life. And I told my doctor if he ever prescribed me Flexeril again.
That's when you had the Flexeril,
Yeah, I can't. There's something about it that I can't. But I'm somebody. See, here's how Manu and I are different. I'm somebody who has. I think we both have anxiety and panic attack, and we have those issues. But for me, those kind of drugs would drive the anxiety, and for him, it might alleviate the anxiety. I don't know if that's because our brains work different. Like the only times I've tried marijuana, I've had horrible panic attacks, so I just don't use marijuana.
Well, my people would tell you that you got to smoke it hard for 2 weeks for it to work right, and then you'll be good.
Yeah, my lorazepam works just fine.
Or you get some gummies and start
small. Yeah, just gradually increase instead of that big blast of that. Okay, so let's get off of drugs. Let's go back to what we were talking about, just what reality is.
What reality is. Well, that kind of goes, that's part of the allure of drugs and expanding consciousness states, is because there is a knowing at the deepest part of ourselves that that's closer to the reality of the truth of what and who we are versus this stuff, right? That's all around us. And I was a chemistry major and a computer science major in college. And one of the things that blew me away is, the whole solid, like what we perceive as solid is really 99.9% space. And it's the energy and the cohesiveness of the bonds that the different molecules have, and the attractions that pull things together that actually make it so we have this reality that we're perceiving. And you think, okay, 99.9% space. Why the hell am I not just falling through the chair? What is making my butt stay in the chair, right? Why are you not all through the ground? Why are we not all melted in the middle of the earth? If we're all, all this space. But that's also how some of the masters used to walk through walls or levitate or they understand they can shift their vibrational field and quicken, because it's all about the speed of vibration, right? And that's energetics. That's where healing comes in. That's where a lot of the telepathy and empathy and connectedness of information comes in from these fields, because everything is energy and information. It's two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. You may not be consciously aware of both, or aware of either. You know, how many people walk around and they're clueless to energy or information? They're in their own little world, right? Maybe the closest they'll come is when they're on an elevator and somebody gets in and they kind of use their spidey sense to be like, do I step back? Do I engage? Do I, you know, get off this car, right? That's about the closest most people use on a day-to-day basis of using their senses to feel. But when you open up and you realize that it's all about energy, and this is how we connect and how we can have compassion with one another, how we can be aware of what's going on in the world and with loved ones, especially with friends and even our animals, right? If you have dogs or cats, they communicate telepathically, energetically, and information, right? So I bet you, if you've had a dog, that dog knew the difference between a road trip to the dog park and a road trip to the vet. And when you said, go in the car, you know, let's go for a ride.
You're not tricking me. I know where we're going.
And that dog is like, I know we're going to the vet, right? I think I'll just go over here instead, right? How do they know? It's because the energy and the information came through your intention of we're going to the ride for one of either purpose. And so if we can do that with dogs and cats that are in our life, how much more so are we able to, and should we be able to do with one another when we have that intention?
I've got a question for you. So one of the things that I think is so broken with human beings in general is this thing that we call ego. For instance, when I said, how do you join the cult at the Monroe Institute? You have a beautiful experience with this place. I said something a little negative about it. I could feel your ego go, wait a second. It's not a cult. This is a cool place. Let me defend it.
Right.
When you said to me, don't take drugs, and I went, hallucinogenics aren't drugs. I got into that ego place where I wanted to defend my reality.
Sure.
And that is based on fear somehow, I think. Fear drives the ego in some sense. Would you agree?
There's
not agree?
I would say fear in general drives the ego. I also think that on a spiritual level, there is a need for discernment and a need for speaking the truth and being clear. And there's also a sheepdog, mama bear kind of energy that comes out from men and women when something that they hold dear to them is threatened in whatever way, right? Whether it's miscategorized, or somebody wants to take your rights away, or somebody misspeaks about it through ignorance about it, right?
I was just going to say ignorance, huge.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like most people don't know what they don't know. And in this day and age, I love podcasts. I'm new to the whole field of podcasting, but I love it because it gives you a platform to get the straight talk out there. No BS, no filters, no like, okay, has to be politically correct. It's like, no, this is my experience, my truth I'm sharing, my wisdom I'm sharing. Whether you take it as wisdom or not, that's up to your whole discernment system.
That's up to your whole meat bag, reality matrix brain.
But I absolutely agree with you. We have a constant choice of, are we choosing love over fear? Are we choosing faith over fear as well, right? Love over hate, faith over fear, hope over hopelessness. There's only certain things we can control, right? We can't control what happens to us and to the other people around us, but we can control how we react and respond to that. And most of the time we have much more conscious choice and spiritual promptings, right? So if you're somebody like myself who has dedicated my adult life to the service of others, to people and animals, that I will use my gifts to help you be your best self, whatever that means to you. Right. And if you don't know what that means, we can go on this journey to help figure that out. Right. Because a lot of people, if you ask them, what do you want? I don't know. They could tell you what they don't want. But if you ask them, what do they want? Or who do they want to become? Or who do they want to be in the world? Or what is the legacy or impact that they want to make before their 100 years on this planet is done? Or 120, if we're lucky, right? With the
that's where the little we can live 10 years past that. I think somebody lived to 130 something recently, but anyway, that's where they capped us supposedly, according to this new Harvard study I read. But
Yeah, it's
Well,
interesting.
and the brain is meant to live longer, right? There were some studies that said your brain can hold up to 800 years worth of memories. I mean, that's
And
hard to believe.
supposedly these and she
The
also
telomeres?
Alethea, I think, also knows about these ancient texts, because
Oh yeah,
I saw this whole thing on ancient wisdom for
yeah,
the modern times.
yeah, yeah, very
So
much so.
have you studied like ancient stuff like the
Yeah,
Sumerian texts and
yeah, yeah, and the Anunnaki people. It's really
yeah.
fascinating to see some of this, and being raised Catholic and Christian, and reading the Bible, you can even, and looking at some of the beautiful art that's even in the Vatican, right? You look at some of these and you're like, what is this glowing disc that's in this ancient painting? Or, gee, what's that? Or you listen to the accounts that are in so many of the texts, even the Bhagavad Gita, right? The Hindu text
The
talks
Vedas
about,
and all that, yeah.
right, the Vedas, they talk about the chariots of fire and the gods that are fighting in the sky. And you're like, how would an ancient people explain an airship, air travel, nuclear weapons, the things that they're, so you go back and cave drawings everywhere, petroglyphs everywhere. You go back, you look at these people that are 9 feet tall, and then there's caves where skeletons of people that were 9 feet tall were discovered. And you're like, okay, that's not just a metaphor. It wasn't mythology. The mythology.
Where did they go? Do you
reality.
know? Is there any text that says where they went or if they're still here? Is this what the UAPs are? Are they Anunnaki still watching? Or
I honestly believe that they're interdimensional beings that are, for the most part, benevolent, that they have one of the codes of watch and don't touch, unless it's like really critical. It's kind of like the guardian angel vibe, right? It's like, we don't interfere, right?
The old Star Trek thing. Yeah.
Right. The prime directive.
The prime directive.
Prime directive, right? So where do you think that came from, right? That probably actually is something like that. Don't mess with it. Yeah. But if they're really going to hurt themselves or the planet, okay, step in and, do the little side shuffle and do what you have to do to make things right. Right. But I also,
well, they have turned off a bunch of our bombs.
Yes.
You read account after account of them turning off.
Yes. And the military, especially the Air Force, is one of the biggest modern verifiers of the UAPs and UFOs. They're finally releasing all the tic-tac videos and all this stuff.
I'm excited because about something you said earlier, which is, we talk about fringe stuff on this show a lot, and esoterics and paranormal and UFOs and all of the fringe sciences. But I really like that it used to just be the fringe. Now it's fringe science. Yeah. It's actually happening now. You mentioned earlier when you first started talking that the Monroe Institute is scientifically studying these phenomenon instead of just like, I'm going to throw some tarot cards down and just
And they partner with the University of Virginia, and with I believe with MIT and Harvard. They've done some studies as well with what happens with brain waves with different states of consciousness and how they can shift that at will, because they look at entrainment. So after you've been working a while with the sound technology, it's like if you meditate a lot or if you go through hypnotherapy a lot, you wind up with a trigger, right? So for some people, the ritual of how they do their drugs is that ritual itself starts the whole process of, I'm shifting my consciousness. The minute you sit in the chair or you grab whatever the thing is that you do, all of a sudden you're shifting into that, right? Whatever it is, the sound, the sight, the smell, your body's primed for it. It knows it's about to happen, right? Well, your body, once you've gone to these places enough times using the sound support, you don't need the support anymore, because now I know the way. I have my triggers, I have my landmarks, my milestones. So I can just say to myself this particular set of words, my own internal mantra, if you will, that reminds my body of, this is what it's like when my body is relaxed and my mind is alert and expanded. This is what it's like. Go ahead.
I'm curious. We've been talking about human minds and biology. Do you think that through AI and eventually when we're able to clone a human brain down to the last neuron, will that have consciousness, or is that strictly a biological thing? In other words, will there ever be such a thing as a living machine?
Oh yeah, come on.
I would think so. I mean, just even look at, all right, Daisy, was it right? Daisy was the first sheep that was cloned way back.
20 years
Daisy,
ago, 25 years
oh,
ago.
oh my God. Oh my God, it's probably closer to 40 at this
40
point, right?
years ago. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was way back. So did Daisy or Dolly or whatever the hell that thing's name was, did it have a personality? Did it have a consciousness? Of course.
Yeah,
It was
based on
also
its own.
biological, though. But
Right.
I'm like
So
an
if there's
android type
life-
thing.
If there's
Well-
life, there's consciousness. And so then the question becomes, all right, so what would the consciousness be like of your clone, Manu? Dolly, thank you, whoever put that in there. Thank you. It's Dolly the sheep. So if you were cloned,
it's going to
Manu,
be me cloned, but it's going to have its own different experience. So
Right.
it'll be different than me.
everything, especially do they have rapidly growing tissues, right? So it doesn't take 28 years to reach physical maturity for the frontal lobe being developed and all the processes of growth to stop at 28. What if they speed that up and that all happens within 2 years? And now you have a fully grown body clone.
Which is what they're saying the AI is going to do.
Do,
So you don't
right?
think that robots or computers will ever become self-aware and have consciousness?
No, I honestly don't know. I would think it's possible because if there's life, there's consciousness, right? So if those go together, then they probably go together. So if there's consciousness, then there's got to be some form of life. Now, if it's on a level in the quantum field that we can't quite perceive it as unique consciousness, but I mean, I programmed computers in the past and it's like there's a language to it, right? And they start to learn. And now with artificial intelligence, it learns. What is it that's learning? What is the part of the AI that's actually learning?
Well, you've heard Ghost in the Machine, right? Ghost in the Machine, is there?
Yeah. Well, here's what I think. I just tune in. I'll give my 2 cents. I think that some of these things that visit us from interstellar systems there's a guy that wrote the book called The Singularity is Near. I don't remember his name, but really a genius guy. Anyway, smart dude. And he said that, one of the things that's going to happen is there's going to become a point where machines become self-aware and more than self-learning, but completely aware of their consciousness. And then it's a decision between that machine and whether they think we're worthy and whether we merge or not. Then
Terminator becomes real.
Yeah. Or we merge with these things and we become more than human. The whole definition of human changes. You become you have maybe some flesh, but you've got a computer brain. And just like the sci-fi stuff where I'll get myself some new eyes. I'll get myself a new tongue.
How will we know the difference between real consciousness and what computers do now, which is to emulate, to behave as if they're conscious, but they're not really?
Well, I think some of these things visiting us have had millions of years to merge with the machine, and that's why they've been able to travel this distance. And
I think on one of the Ancient Alien shows I saw years ago, they talked about some metallic like skin that was retrieved from a craft, and it was part organic and part inorganic, and they couldn't quite figure out, like, okay, how can you have both of these things at once? And I was like, well, that's flipping clue, that's cool stuff.
To me, it looks like come hell or high water, that's what we're doing.
Well,
we're heading towards that. We're going to find out whether that's real or not. I think
if you look at a lot of sci-fi, that is the other dimensional beings' ways of priming the pump and getting society ready for at least the thoughts or the ideas. So I'm leaning very strongly towards there's going to be some kind of massive alien exposure, unveiling, revelation, something within. I would be surprised if it even takes 10 more years before we have
We're
something.
being slow walked, and I've said
pervade-
that before too. We're being slow walked. The government knows, of course they
Right.
know, but
They're
you know,
releasing things little by little. But if you look at
Yeah.
a lot of the movies that come out and the series that come out, and what are some of the messages that are coming through over and over again? Yeah, there's some of the scary ones. Independence Day, they just want to blast the shit out of us and kill us all, right? There's the bad stuff, right? But there's also other ones that are very uplifting about. They're here to help save the earth. They're here to help save the resources. They're here to guide the people along so we don't like blow ourselves up and destroy this beautiful earth and all that, the life that's on it. So I'm somebody who really much believes in benevolent forces. And yes, you know, dark and light have to coexist. You can't have joy if you haven't had pain, right? You don't know the full extent. The whole spectrum, everything exists. And I believe that most of the interdimensional forces that are working with us here on the planet, they are here to help guide us, coach us. Whether we started off as their science project that went woefully wrong and took a turn that was unexpected, I don't know.
There's still something out there caring for us.
Oh yeah, there's something. Even if it's just, you know what I loved about Men in Black, one of the last ones, if you remember, you know, they put this world inside the Foot Locker and the door closes and it come back out and like, oh, and the earth in our whole dimension is just a foot
in a locker. Yeah.
In a locker.
That was the first one. That was the first.
Yeah. Just loved it. You know, that because again, infinite minds trying to understand the infinite. We have no idea how we are. It's like being on a trampoline and peeking over a fence. You get a glimpse.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Locker was the second movie. No, the first movie ended with it going back and back and back until the whole universe was a marble, and then the alien was playing with the marble. That was the first one. Yeah. The second one is the one where it's a locker in Grand Central, and they open the locker, and it's big. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
they opened the locker in the middle of the movie,
like that.
and then we were looking down on that universe like, oh, what a bunch of idiots! They don't know what's going on, and of course we had our
little world here, right?
Yeah,
all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's the other thing. With science, they say the universe is huge. Mm-hmm. How do we know this? How do we really know this for a fact? We don't, right?
And I love the as above
compared to what's on the other side. Yeah.
I love that when you look at galaxies, you see the spiral and the Fibonacci curves and the fractals. And that when we go down within and you look at a microscope and you look at the cells and it's like you got the little galaxies and the swirls and the fractals and you're like, there is something to this.
So you channel,
but the micro and the macro don't. Our understanding of the macro and the micro don't work, right? Like. You have quantum mechanics and you have relativity, and the way objects behave at very small, isn't how they behave in macro. And now they're saying that ultra macro, universal scale type objects don't behave in the general relativity. That gravity is off by like 1% or 2 in the ultra macro verse.
Well, you know what I love about the human mind is that we think that a one solution thing even exists. Like, why does that have to even exist? We've got a set of rules, and we have to make them, and they have
particles will pop into existence, right? Particles,
yeah, they do.
Quantum mechanics, they pop into existence.
Quarks,
but you never see a world pop into existence.
Well, you know what? Part of that also is back to our human nature, though, right? We would not survive as an individual. So being part of community is what helped us survive as families and tribes, right? So there had to be some common belief systems or something, a unifying principle that kept us together. And we, on the deepest levels of our DNA as humans, feel like I need to get along with, I need to believe in something similar for my survival, right? So that little bit there is why I think there's been holy wars for forever, right? Ever since there was any division as to my God is the God or my way is the way. Well, it literally meant life or death to people, like, and their salvation afterwards, right? So if there really was only one true God and there's all these different ladders leading to the one roof, take whatever ladder you like, as long as you live a good life and you're a good person and you try to do the best you can, okay, you're in, right? I had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine because she was convinced that only people of her church would go to heaven and have their
Just her
be with
friends.
their families forever, right? And she was surprised to see a gravestone in a different church's cemetery that actually had, together forever of this husband and wife. And we're like, yeah, every religion says if you follow the rules and you're a good person, you'll wind up in their equivalent of heaven, with your loved ones, with your version of God, whatever that is for you. And that's it. And is there one true whatever? Well, the one true whatever is what we feel when we're in that expanded consciousness of we are all one. We are all different aspects of some unifying principle that is experiencing and expanding itself through time and through consciousness and through whatever this universe actually is. And again, finite mind, a lot bigger out there. We'll never know the whole thing.
Not until even after we die, we may not know. That just might be one of our incarnations, and our spirit could be living millions of lives at once.
And even for somebody like myself who has the luxury in a lot of ways of having been able to communicate with spirit on the other side, it's still a glimpse. Because there's certain things there's just no words for. If you read or hear or talk to somebody who's had a near-death experience, they'll talk about colors that they perceived on the other side that there's no words for here, or sounds, celestial sounds, like it was like music, but it was more. It was there's qualities to it you can't put your finger on.
How do you describe sight to a blind person, right? So it's another sense that there's no way to it when you experience it, but it's really hard to articulate.
But
right?
Blind people can echolocate. I had a blind friend that I would take to the movies, and he would do that little tick thing, and he could tell that there was a door in front of him.
How do you explain what sight is?
Well, he could,
other than using colors and hot and cold and
Yeah, but I would go to the movies with him, and I would actually he would love to go to the movies because he would love to hear it.
Yeah.
But he would like me to go, okay, there's a guy running across a field of flowers.
Right.
And then he would, have me explain the movie to him. But he would see it in his way, whatever his way was.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to think about, and I had asked Spirit to help give me an analogy to explain how we can't really grasp it. And what came to me was a vision of a goldfish in a goldfish bowl. And even if you tried to explain to the goldfish what an ocean was like and what's in the ocean and the tides and the currents and the salinity of the water and the different kinds of experiences that would be there, that fish, that goldfish, even if it thinks it has an imagination and it's like, oh yeah, I think I can imagine what it would be like. You put that fish in the ocean, it's a whole different experience. That little goldfish would be in great peril.
Oh yeah. If you kept me here from a baby in Cassie's freaking basement with these 4 walls and this microphone, and maybe not this computer because it would show me a lot, but and then suddenly showed me the world when I was 35, it would be like, oh my God.
Right. Or like, what was it? Captain America when he came out of the freeze the first time. Whoa.
Yeah. So you channel though. So I'm interested in this. You entities come through to you.
Yes.
And earlier backstage, you told me it doesn't really matter who or what, but I still can't help but be interested in the who or the what. Sure. Do you find yourself sometimes channeling? Do you ever get a glimpse of the who or the what?
Oh yeah. Yeah, sometimes I'll get relationships. Sometimes I'll know very specifically, who the person was, the role in that person's life. Occasionally I'll get a name, and I'll share with you the very first time I realized I had this gift to be able to help somebody in public. So for me to refine my gifts, I wanted to go to what I called spiritual boot camp, right? Which is basically working psychic fairs where you have 10 to 12 different psychics all at their own table. It's a ballroom of some hotel room that the organizer sets up. Week after week, you go there from 11 in the morning till 6 at night. You sit down at your table. Somebody comes, the bell rings, they hand your ticket. 15 minutes later, they get up, the bell rings, next person sits down. And it's like, okay, would you read my palm? Would you read my oracle cards? Would you read my angel cards? Can you contact my dead, grandmother? Can you, whatever it was, right? It was
read
all
my aura,
different.
blah blah. Yeah,
Read my aura, read my tarot cards, read my angel cards, read my palm, all those, whatever, right? All those different skill sets. Well, I had not really done any mediumship publicly, but I was doing all those other tools at the fair for a couple of years. And then one Sunday, the medium who was normally there called out sick. And there was a lady who came up to the front desk and was looking to talk to somebody as the medium. And the organizer, Robert, turned around and he said, "Hey, can anybody, help this lady?" And I said, "Well, I'll give her a shot. I've been talking to spirits since I was a kid. I never thought to on behalf of somebody else, but why not?" So the lady sits down, gives me her ticket, and right away I get an inner perception. And when people say they see things clairvoyantly, it's not like, oh, you see this book, right? It's like you get a sense of it. It's like that inner mind's eye. So if I was to say to you, okay, imagine a pink tutu on a blue hippopotamus, right? Somewhere in your mind's eye, you just created this and saw it, right?
That's cute.
All right. So that picture is there. So now when that picture appears for you, you could describe that. That's what I'm seeing. Well, in my mind's eye, this little boy, about 7 years old, pops in and he has sandy brown hair, and he tells me telepathically his name was Tommy. So I'm like, okay. So I say to the lady, "Well, I have your son here. He's telling me his name is Tommy, and he looks like he's around 7 years old." Then the lady, the waterworks starts. She's like, "Oh, yes, I'm here about my son. And yes, he just died, but I'm confused of why is he showing himself at 7? Because he just died last week and he was almost double that." And I was like, okay, let me find out. And she said, "And oh, by the way, we never called him Tommy. I almost only called him Tom." I'm like, "Lady, you have no idea the rabbit I just pulled out of my hat here." I'm like, "All right, whatever, we'll go with it." So I asked the little boy, and I say telepathically, "So why are you showing this version of yourself?" And what came back was, he said, "I wanted my mommy to know I'm okay. And this was the last time I was healthy. And I want her to remember me this way because she's so sad because I got sick after that point and just went downhill. And I want her to know I'm okay. And this is how I want her to remember me." So I say this to the mother, and she starts crying. And she's like, "Oh, that's true. Last time he was healthy was when he was 7. He got childhood leukemia and then recently died from that." So I'm like I'm thrilled, like I'm being of service and helping this lady, but she's still like, "Well, can you prove to me that you're really talking to my Tommy?" And I'm like, "Kid, what else can you give me here?" And so how about if I describe his bedroom to you? Would that work? "Oh yeah." So he shows me I see then his bedroom, and standing at the door, you look across, there's a little window, his bed, next to the bed, there's a shelf about middle of the window height, and there was a red fire truck on that. And I describe all that, and then the waterworks starts. She's like, "Oh yes, that's him. That's him." So that was the first time in public that I actually said, okay, let me try to use that gift to help. And I think because there was such a really strong need on her part, as well as a very heartfelt just willingness and wanting to help, I think that's why Spirit came through so strongly with exactly what was needed in that motion. In that moment.
Is it always spirit? Is it sometimes interdimensionals? Is it sometimes alien? Is it sometimes?
Yeah, it really depends on.
Like when you're alone, you said you've been talking to spirit since you were a kid.
So to me, I think of the Holy Spirit as a guardian angel, my constant companion and buddy that has a sense of humor. And I'm from New York originally, so it can be colorful banter. I mean, there was a time I asked for signs from God, and because I'm from New York, I gave suggestions. Like, I'll be looking for these things, just in case. I don't want to miss them, right? That wasn't arrogance. That was just.
I ask my God for that all the time. Help me see what you want me to see. Like, to help me listen. So, but the Holy Spirit, when you say the Holy Spirit, what do you mean by that? Is that do you just mean like the God at the center of everything, the God at the center of paradise?
So to me, because of being raised Christian, the archetype that works for me personally, that I can be a part of, with the caveat of knowing that finite mind, probably not even close, but I like the construct of heavenly parents, Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother. I love the idea of Jesus being a way shower, whether he's prophet, Messiah, Savior, personal or not. To me, he was that way shower, an elder brother. And then the Holy Spirit is that it's the consciousness that connects us all
to
each
God,
other,
right?
to each other, and to that source, whether it's called God, the source, the one, the being. So for me, the only rule I have with spirit is it has to be positive, right? I only want positive vibration, good energy, good light, something that's of the light. I don't want anything dark. You can tell me bad news, right? But with the frame of, okay, there's black ice. Now you have the choice of, do you go do donuts on that and wind up crashing your car? Or do you wait and don't go that way? Or do you proceed with caution, right? You still get the bad news, but I don't want dark forces. I don't want negativity. I don't
bad news from a good source. Bad news from a good source.
Exactly. Right? I want to be able to really trust that whatever's coming through is going to give us guidance, comfort, direction, insight, things that will help us become the best version of ourselves going forward.
Alethea, do the sneaky bad guys ever get through your positivity? You ever see things dark by accident?
I have been in places where there was negative energy present. For example, I was with a friend when she was clearing out a house and kind of doing a house blessing and closing off negative portals because there was a lot of ghost activity in this particular place. And I'm like, oh, let me go. Like, I never did that before. I have a really deep sense of curiosity with all things esoteric and spiritual. It's sort of like I have an open mind to the possibility until it's shown me otherwise. So anyway, she was like, oh, do you want to come? I'm like, yeah, sure. This was up in Montreal. And so I went up there, and as we're walking through the house, at one point I felt like this cold wave just went right through me, and it felt like kind of icy, like imagine getting stabbed with a non-physical ice pick in your gut. It was just like, what the hell was that? Starts laughing. She's like, oh yeah, those are the ones you're trying to get rid of. I'm like, okay, great. I don't need to feel that anymore. Thank you so much. But what I do,
you've seen them, and
there's definitely like around bars, around one of the reasons some drugs and alcohol can be damaging is that they put holes in the screen of your aura. So there's natural filters that protect us, and when our consciousness is impacted by artificial substances where we can't just snap out of it if we want, sometimes that's when you'll get the hitchhikers, the energy leeches, the negative moths that like want to go through and find your flame, right? They're looking for a way in.
Well, being a drug person
out there
past, I think of some of these drugs that I think of as bad drugs in general, as bad spirits. That's why they used to call them spirits.
Oh yeah.
There's entities, a purveyor of spirits. Alcohol is, it inhabits a darkness to it.
You can make the point that there's an entity in any group consciousness that exists. So a city can have an entity, like Philadelphia was originally the city of brotherly love, right? Las Vegas, Sin City. There's an actual entity or vibration that goes with certain places, right? So that's all real. Energy is real. And I think that's one of the things that I love about like Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah is they will talk about, and the Greek Orthodox Church will talk about, there actually are angels and demons, right? You have both out there. There are negative thought forms. You look in the Bible even. So what were these spirits that Jesus was casting out, or these demons that were casting out, or what are these beings? Well, if there's the angelic, there has to be the demonic. Right? There's, again, two halves to the whole. So when we do work, the only difference between somebody like myself and somebody who's out there practicing dark arts is they have a different intention and different tools and approaches to how they are manipulating energy and information. I do it for the benefit of my client, to be of service. That's what makes my soul feel fulfilled, to take the gifts and the learnings I have and to now download and share and output and hopefully create a sense of curiosity in you that's like, well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I can try that. Let me see what happens when I do that. And
Light
that
beings that you saw when you were 7, do you know what they were? Were they human spirit, or were they
the closest thing I
Muse?
couldn't call them, because they were lights that were up kind of like where the ceiling and the wall meet above the window, and they would be just kind of glowing, and sometimes they would kind of swarm, and sometimes there would be only one or two, and sometimes there would be like a whole bunch of them. And it was this feeling of this telepathic communication with them, and it was very uplifting. It was, I would call them more of angelic or fairy realm types, because they were very positive, uplifting. I had a lot of abuse that I dealt with when I was younger. And so I believe that they were there to comfort me and help me know, like, hang in there. It's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. You're not alone. And I think that's what a lot of spirits come to us for, to help us know that, hey, you're not alone. You know, they have different roles, you know, the little people, right? The gnomes, the fairies, the elementals that you read about in certain cultures, they were realer than reality to certain cultures once upon a time, right? And now we look at a lot of that.
The Asian culture, they're all about spirits and entities.
Yeah. And every life form has it. You know, even look at plants. You can have two identical plants. You talk to one and give it love and attention, the same amount of fertilizer, sun, and water, it thrives. You take the exact same brother plant, and instead you're nasty to it, you ignore it. You still give it its food, its water, exact equal. One's thriving, the other one's dying. Why? Yeah. There's a consciousness, there's an energy level.
I think this might have been at the Monroe Institute, but I once saw this, like, it was like a little thing of water with some kind of spores or something in them. I don't know what plant it was. I think there were spores of some kind, but the guy could literally sit there and put his hand out and go like this, and the spores would do that. And then he could go like this, and they would, what was that?
If you've ever read, I think his name is Mamoto, Messages from Water is a fabulous.
Oh yeah, what, like, right?
Oh my God! It's like
how you can like have an emotion and take a picture of the frozen.
And take a picture of the cellular structure
of
and
water.
Beauty and joy and love and compassion are these beautiful.
Anger looks angry,
and you look exactly right. And so that's where what some of the basic ancient wisdoms. As you think, so you are. Be careful what you empower with your words, because your words become your reality.
And manifest. The water is the life, right? Too.
Water is
life.
Love
that.
Your body hears you. Your body hears you, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you programming into your body? What are you programming into your life, into the environment around you, right? Some of this stuff is so basic, but most people don't think about this stuff. Deep thinking is a lost art. You know,
yeah, honestly, most of us are Philistines. I would count myself in that pool, but I'm a really curious Philistine.
You're curious though, which is good. I love somebody who's curious. You can be as skeptical as you want, because skeptical just means you haven't proven it to me yet, but I have an open mind and I'll listen, right? I love skeptics who say to me, how can you possibly, you know, I'm like, I don't know. There's some people that are born and can play music. And you're like, where did that gift come
from? My grandpa could play by ear.
You're like, wow, that's awesome.
Wish I got that one.
And most people, if they study and learn, they can make some nice music, right? Whether they learn to play or sing or whatnot, they can do that. That's a human potential, just like our spiritual gifts are. And learning what your spiritual gifts are makes your life so much easier. You can be in this sense of flow. Even learning how your own intuition works. We all have one. What is the way that you talk to yourself? What is the way that you perceive? That's important.
My last question to you is still based on that fear thing. Why so much negativity? Why so much fear in this world? Is it part of the people in charge running the show? Is it just part of nature? Why is it that it is so? It seems like in society there's such a be afraid thing going on out there?
Because there are certain forces that want to control, and the easiest way to control the masses is through fear. And we're also in a pendulum swing. If you kind of look at big pendulum swing, think of the permissiveness of the 60s, right? Free love, we're all one. We really don't care about, what do we build out in the outside world? As long as we're all one and singing Kumbaya by the fire, life is good, right? And then it kind of swang way the other way to, okay, we want the Bitcoin, the biggest, what's the
Ferrari yacht house.
Right. What can I get without having to work for it? Like working 40 hours a week, that's Philistine. That's torture. That's cruelty. No. I want to work 4 hours a day and be a multi-billionaire because I'm smart. Okay, great. More power to you, right? But it's a different world, a different swing, right? And that's very much individual. It's not a win-win. It's a net zero sum game that way. Oh, if I get more, you get less. So no, you have to have less. Versus that mentality back in the 60s of free love, it's all us, that commune, what's mine is yours and yours is mine. And I think what happens is we get to a fever pitch of there's so much energy that we know we have to make a change. And that's what it intensifies, right? Because it went too far with the free love. And next thing
there was a negative aspect there too.
Right.
Like, we don't even want to do anything. There
was no responsibility.
Nobody has to grow anything. Nobody has to provide food. It'll just come.
Right. And so that had a failing. And then, so I think when you look at huge societal types of pendulum swings, and then also spiritually, before any quickening, before any ascension, before any major shift, it's almost like you get the tremors before the earthquake. It's hey, you know what? Things are going to shift. Things are going to shift. Things are going to shift. Are you getting ready? Are you getting ready? Hey, are you seeing the warning signs? And so some of that building and that fever pitch is to be that wake up call. One of the things I as soon as I saw you, I'm like, oh, you are a fellow prophet with a little p. You are somebody who is sounding the wake up call, trying to wake.
Yes, a very little p.
Very
Yes.
little p. There you go. Well, not
Irish.
I don't know.
We're trying. I think of the world and reality in general is so amazing. And when I look at this meat sack and this avatar, and I sort of think at 46 that we're definitely in some kind of spiritual simulation of some kind that has definitely a spiritual watcher entity out there that has created it. But I think human beings are way down the totem pole to what you would call the Holy Spirit. I think we'll make our way back, and the Holy Spirit loves us and doesn't care how long it takes. There's no judgment. No time over there.
There is no judgment in spirit, right?
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with a gentleman I was dating, and he broke up with me over my thoughts about reincarnation because it was just blew his mind too much.
Too much for him, yeah.
Too much. I said, look, it's in the Bible. Little bits they didn't take out. They were still like, well, what does that mean? Are you really Elias reborn or this or that, right? There's a little hints. And then in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's the whole book of Thomas that talks all about reincarnation that conveniently was not put back in. And he's like, well, why wouldn't the churches have that in there? I said, well, think about it.
Because Constantine was a dick. He wanted to use it to control people.
Control the people, right? If you think you have one shot to get it right and your eternal salvation and how you'll spend not just your 50, 60, 70 years on the planet or 20, 30, 40, because back then they didn't live very long, right? Mm-hmm. If you thought your eternity was going to be based on, did I follow the rules by what this particular set says to do? You're going to follow that pretty closely. Like it's so important to you. If you think, God is benevolent, like any father wants their children to be successful. And if it takes you more than once, try again until you get it right. And you feel like you got what you needed out of that. We're good. You can keep coming back as much as you want. Is it just, doesn't that feel like a more loving God who would let us do
Which
that?
is basically what Jesus talks about.
Which he does.
Yeah.
So, so stuff like that. But
the old law is gone. It is now about love, isn't that?
And you think, how about the people? We have so many people that have proven this. They will have conscious awareness of another lifetime. A child will talk about, I was married to this person. I know where his glasses are. I know where the money was buried in the backyard. I know, like they know all this stuff. And you're like, that's kind of cool. Right.
Yeah.
Or you do a meditation and you have this vision and you see yourself in Scotland and you're like, wow, I see myself sitting there and I know all this stuff. And then you go visit and you're like, oh my God, I know this place. How do I know this place? Right.
Mm-hmm. That's
Are we all the threads of a tapestry that are weaving together, and each lifetime is another thread, and we come down and sometimes it's a kick butt. I want to accomplish as much as possible lifetime and learn as much and do as much. And then there's others like, man, I'm exhausted.
I took 2 breaths and I checked out because I just wanted to
Can I just hang out in Jamaica for a little while with Bob Marley and his group and just like be blissed out in the oneness of whatever the Rasta thing is, whatever, right?
Yeah. I came in, I showed how beautiful I was. I died. My parents had to get over it and strong, and I was that service to them. Incarnating is wild. I certainly enjoy.
Let me
being
share,
alive.
if I can, on that, because that was really important. One of the biggest messages that I got from a spirit was out of a baby, that the mother was devastated because it died a crib death. And she was like, what happened? And I said, no, this soul was so grateful. It chose you and your husband as the parents because they knew you would be able to give it that toe in the water of the physical plane. It wasn't ready to sign up for 80-year experience. It just wanted that little, I want to feel loved. I want to feel what physicality is like. You gave that spirit that gift, and that's all it wanted right now. And it will forever be connected with you on the spiritual planes and able to guide and help and assist and be part of you in that way, because it's always a part of you. But that was so comforting to that mom who lost that baby. And that blew my mind of, wait, we do choose. We choose our parents. We know the big blocks. We don't know the very specific detail that at age 47, I'm going to get hit by a car and have to be walking with a cane the rest of my life until I get my knees replaced, right?
I would argue that our soul knows, but our soul is so infinitely more complex than we can understand. Like you said, finite beings,
right?
That until we tune back into whatever that is and escape this avatar that we're in.
Yeah.
Well, if our soul exists not in time, but without time, then you're right.
Without time it would know what's up.
But we can't know.
And it could, like Manu could just be a little piece of a soul that is beautiful and infinite, and I'm just like a part of it.
Right. Have you ever heard of remote viewing?
Yeah. We did.
Oh God, yeah, we did an experiment.
Is it dangerous to remote view, by the way? Someone told us that the other day.
No, one of the workshops that they offer at the Monroe Institute is remote viewing, and it's with the Stargate viewer number 1, Joe McMoneagle. He was the one who was in the CIA who worked with the program, and he's been the guy, the go-to guy, and he's been teaching it there for years. But you want to talk about getting your brain twisted in, like trying to understand, like there really is no time or space. So you can actually go and remote view a target from 50 years ago, 500 years ago, 5 million years ago, or into the future. Same thing.
Oh, you can remote view out of time. That's cool.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Right. There's no limitations of time and space, right? And so it's sort of like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And for everybody that has gone back to do past life regressions, well, why don't you do future life regressions? They're there too. What gifts you want to seed plant or know about for later? It's like, oh, okay, what would be helpful for me to know now? Because I'm going to need that in my soul stream 2 or 3 lives from now.
So my job on this show, because we're running out of time, unfortunately, but is to tell people about your new book. Can you show people your new book so that they can read it? It's called A Portal to Potential.
The Muse of Monroe.
The Muse of Monroe. And it's got a bunch of interesting things and tidbits about how to live your life in a more spiritual way. You should definitely check it out. Go to Alethea's website. Did we put all of this information in the description below, Cassie?
Yeah,
I think we did. But her website
is on Amazon. As well.
You can also get her book on Amazon. You can go to Alethea Jacob. That's like Jacob from the Bible. JACOB.com. Also, Spiritually Speaking with Alethea, which is ALE Thea, THEA.com. Also, she's got contact info. I don't know if you want to give out your email or not, but
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
And she's what is this Not Now life coaching secrets? How to restore power and balance to your life today.
So about 8 years ago, I wanted to figure out, how do I get a book done? Right. So if I have a manuscript or thoughts, how do I actually get from here into something I can hold in my hand? And that was
do it.
That was the actual, like, and back then I had to hire somebody to turn the manuscript into something that could be uploaded. And I call it my little mini bathroom book. It's some of the learnings and principles that came through over and over again, being a life coach for that many years. And it's like, these same messages seem to come up. This seems to be a universal issue for a lot of people. And so I just took the 5 aspects of life that seemed to come up over again and just wrote a little chapter on each one. It was mostly an exercise to see, like, how do you get this book? But the things that are in there are still valid. The creative not now is basically the answer to the question of the people that they're damned when they do and damned when they don't. Right. So if you have a really good friend who asks you, hey, can you help me paint like tomorrow? And you're like, oh, man, I was planning on relaxing tomorrow. It's my first day off in months. I wish you'd asked me sooner. Well, now you're in this awkward position, right? Because you want to be there to help that brother or friend. But now you'd be resentful because that was going to be my day off. Well, how much are you going to be enjoying that day off, sitting there saying, oh, man, I really should go help that friend, right? So that's that damned if you do, damned if you don't. So what's the creative not now that fixes that? So, well, one is you got to train the people in your life to respect your time a little bit more and say, give me a little notice, because clearly you knew you were painting more than just yesterday, right? You were getting things ready, you're shopping, you're painting, you're moving furniture out of the way, you're taping stuff up, whatever, right? Give me a little more courtesy. But I can fix this for myself, where I can say, I can't come tomorrow. I'm sorry you didn't give me enough notice. But how about I can come on Tuesday and I'll pick up some donuts on the way, and anything that's left, I'll help you finish that up. Right. So now I'm kind of doing that, my creative part of it's not now, but I can still enjoy my day off that I had planned, and I can still be there for you.
Still make now happen. Still make now happen for both of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Make a now.
So that's kind of what that book's about. And the Portal to Potential, it's all these creative writings, insights, questions to ask about life purpose, things to ponder, some poetry that came through. And like, less poetry I ever read was in high school, when for a haiku class or some crazy thing. I'm like, poetry, really? But as I started reading it,
poetry's amazing.
Like taking dictation. That's what channeling is for me. It's like I hear it, and it comes through as fast as I can write it or type it. It just comes through me. And so then I read it and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I can say that without it really being like an ego thing, because it wasn't me crafting it or trying to figure it out or write it. I was just allowing it to come through me, through my filter. That we have to have accountability for our filter. So I can't just say really nasty things to you and say, oh, sorry, I'm channeling. No. That's not how it works. There has to be accountability.
Yeah. So at AletheaJacob.com, can people get a hold of you and take life coaching lessons or like?
Yes, we can. I do classes. Like I'm here for Sedona twice a year. I come here to help co-lead retreats with my friend down here.
Cool.
Totally recommend checking out the Monroe Institute. By the way,
don't go to Sedona. You've missed out. That town is so beautiful.
Oh my God, it's gorgeous.
And the Monroe Institute. I still have. That's my last question. How do you can you check in there? How do you visit it? How do you can you study there? Like what?
One of the pages in the book, actually, there's a picture of the Institute, all their contact info, right in the beginning but yes, if you go to their website, you can look at all the courses. They actually have a lot that you can do remotely now as well, just as samplers. They have outreach trainers that can actually bring it to you. And you can have, small groups in the privacy of your own, whatever. You can go to the actual retreat center for a residential. Highly recommend going.
Yeah, that sounds fun. How much is it to go for like a few months and take classes there and all that? Really
depends on the courses that you're taking and how long it is. This all proceeds of this book, I'm donating back to the Institute, to their scholarship fund, because it is a couple grand for a full 6-day residential program, because you get your room, all your meals, plus the experiences, plus some take-home stuff. And they usually have 2 instructors with you the whole time, and it's an immersive experience. So it's not crazy expensive, but it's also not very cheap for everybody. But they also have an app called the Expand app that you can get for like a monthly subscription, where you can try a lot of their different the meta music, which helps to do different things with the sound waves, but the themes of the music are things you might like. They have all the different genres pretty much imaginable.
Well, I got to do something, because when the show started tonight, I was like, oh man, this girl's going to be all about positivity, and this woman's going to speak about, manifesting things for yourself. And I was like, this is going to be a crappy show. But you're I'm serious. I was thinking that shit. You remember, I was like, oh man, I've heard all this before. But you have been so positive this whole time that your aura has affected me and made me realize that I got to get out of negative space more often.
I knew you were going to be great from the start, but that's different.
Well, thank you. Well, you know what, though? If I was to tell you some of the crazy, horrible things that have happened in my life, you'd be like, well, that's really surprising that you're optimistic. And again, it's back to choice. And I really think that part of the reason I have some of the compassion I do now, and the gratitude that I have now,
on your face before,
because of a lot of the nasty stuff that's happened to me in my life.
Yeah, me too.
And the left turns that came out of nowhere, the unexpected, the ones who are like, hey, I'm a psychic and you couldn't give me a heads up. Thanks a lot. Right. You can't a lot of times know what is best for you in that moment or what your soul signed up for. But in hindsight, so kind of going back, like we were talking about time travel and whatnot. If I could go back to a younger version of myself, I honestly wouldn't want to mess up anything that happened then, other than to give myself some comfort. To be that angel sitting on my bed saying, you're going to get through this. You're going to be okay. We're going to make this. You're going to wind up helping a lot of people. So all the hell that you went through was worth it. We're all on a hero's journey.
We
right?
all suffer. Yeah, we're all
always
suffer
on the journey
here, and we all either get through it or we don't. And either way, it's okay.
My favorite thing to do, Manu, is to customize. So what I like to do is sit with somebody and say, okay, what do you want to experience? What do you want to learn? How do you want to shift in your being, and what do you want to become? And kind of helping to put that roadmap together. And so whether it's building a custom retreat, a custom workshop, a custom class, one-on-one coaching, whatever works for that person, because I've been in this field for so long and have experimented and learned all these different tools, it's not like, well, here's my class and you have to come here. And if you don't fit in the bot, tough luck. Now it's all about customization. And I think that's where the social media helps us, and a lot of these tools that now you don't have to travel. When I was a baby metaphysician, right, I had to travel to Egypt live to go lay in the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid.
I'd like to do that. How much?
It was way fun. It was so cool. It was a mystical, magical moment in my life that has a great, fun story attached, right? But you know what? People today can actually tap into that energy. They can watch the videos. They can be there, like in virtual reality. And you're like, dang.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Things are accessible now. There's no excuse now for not becoming all you can or want to be.
Tyson, you're looking at how many?
I'm looking at the thing. Oh, we have 8 people who've been waiting a very long time to ask questions. I was trying to get your attention.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ready. Let's let them go. Yeah, at the end of the show, we always let people ask.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So, let's take them one by one. Who's first?
All right.
Who do we have on the line? Okay.
We're bringing them on.
Java R.
Java the Hutt. No.
Hey.
Uh-oh. That's exactly right, Tyson.
Uh-oh. Yeah. That's my brother.
You guys remember who I am?
Yes, I do.
Java the Hutt. Excuse me?
I'm playing. I'm playing.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey.
I'm just here to say, very enjoyable show. Learned a little bit. Keep an open mind on everything. I enjoy the chat room with all the regular viewers. I just wanted to stop by and say hi. Try to get back into the you know, start seeing more regularly. I've been kind of busy at work, new job, promotion last month, so just been focusing on that. But yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. You have a psychic here. You want a question? You got a question for her?
You know,
do you see anything around Javi?
I mean, I do. I consider myself a sensitive. I do see shadow people. Definitely when I was younger, when I was a little boy, teenager, even to this day, you know, and then just the vibes, just the feelings, the chills, you know, when I walk somewhere and I get just an eerie feeling, or a positive, whether positive or negative, or chills, that kind of stuff, you know.
How are you guys? Is this your brother, Tyson? Your real brother?
My brother-in-law. Yeah, he's in the kitchen. I'm out in my room. So
you can say I'm a real brother. You know,
I could run in there and wave and run back if you'd like me.
Yeah, I'm on the. Yeah, I mean, I could join Tyson if you wanted. You know.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have a question, I'm letting you go because there's 7 more people.
No, not a problem. I just wanted to turn in Manu and just say, enjoy the show.
Hey, brother, I'm digging what you're doing with your beard. You're looking good. That's styling.
Right on.
Yeah,
I gotta rock the look. So
I'm digging it, man. I'm digging it. You look like there was this guy actually. Speaking of negative things, when I was a kid, you look good. Seriously, I'm not fucking with you. But
no, thank you.
I was up in Idaho and we lived like 35 miles out this dirt road way out there in the boonies. I saw aliens. I saw blue people in my room. I saw all sorts of weird shit out there. But I saw this one guy when I was like 5 to 6 that I used to call the Goat Man. And he had this big long horn on his chin. And he looked a little bit like the Goat Man. I would look out my window and this creature would be like looking up at me, and it would have this horn on its chin, and then it would like dart off into the trees at night. And I saw it a few times. And then once I saw it in my bed, and I turned and it was laying next to me, and it went, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I woke up. It was actually a dream.
Well,
but you look like a positive.
That's not me.
But you look like a positive Goat Man to me.
I try to be.
The Goat Man was not positive.
Yeah, caring, you know. But keep doing what you're doing, buddy.
Yeah, man. You too, and keep rocking that look. I love it. All right, who do we got next? Cara, do you have a question for Alethea?
Well, that's my brother-in-law. Here's my sister.
Hey, you've got to unmute your microphone.
I'm on the other side of the table in the kitchen.
Okay.
Anyways, Alethea, what do you think of cryptids moving in and out between our plane and their plane of existence?
So Bigfoot
and when she was 7. So
Loch Ness. Yeah,
I didn't say pixies. I said pixies. Sorry.
I think that there's all kinds of interdimensional beings and portals that overlap, and certain times when certain energy fields are just in phase in just the right way that allows that ability to pass through or perceive through. And so I am very open-minded to pretty much any manifestation that happens through that. I don't limit it. I don't, if somebody says they saw it or, has a sense of an encounter, I would be more open to believe it versus discounting it, unless there's some psychotic drug involved. I did visit a friend of mine that was in a mental wing of a hospital. She was having a bipolar break, and I went to visit her, and there was somebody else in the hallway, and this woman is like pointing at the snakes on the ground, and she's like, the snakes, do you see them? And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I see the thought forms that were there. Thought forms are what people can perceive because of energy that's built up, right? So was there really a snake there? No, it was a thought form energy, but in an altered state, you could perceive that, right? So was it really there or not? Well, not in our physical dimension, but in the dimensionality of that woman's mind and the thought forms, it existed. So
like if you stay up long enough on any form of Adderall or speed for a number of days, you'll start seeing all sorts of weird things.
Here's my.
I don't recommend doing it, But when I was a kid, I used to do speed maybe 13 to like 16 in high school. And I did so much of it that I stayed up for like 9 or 10 days. And I saw little like midget dudes with little, they had ostriches, and they were like standing there on the corner with their ostrich, and they were going to ride it. And little spidery things would run across my floor and all sorts of creepy, gross stuff. So yeah, they were there for me. I don't think anybody else saw them, but I did. I don't recommend it, but as far as cryptids go, I am a big believer. I think Bigfoot is definitely interdimensional of some kind, or what they.
Yeah.
I think too many people have seen or heard or been fucked with by something in the woods that wasn't something that we know of in the normal world for them not.
Yeah, and they blame it on bear attacks. Sure.
Yeah.
Anything to calm the nerves of the simpletons.
Yeah, I had a really wild thing happen to me in the national forest once. Big, huge blue light came out of nowhere and just shined on me with this a power force that was intense. And then it went away, and everything was darkness again. I was parked on the side of the road trying to sleep. Who has their microphone on? I don't know. But anyway, I don't know where that light came from. Never found out. But it was definitely strange, and it wasn't police.
I was going to say it wasn't a helicopter. All right.
It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't a cop. It wasn't some forest ranger with a bright light. It was weird. All right. Sorry, Cara. I interrupted the question. I just got all self-conscious. Did I cut you off, Alethea? I didn't? Okay, then we'll take the next guest. Who's next?
Mala.
Hello. How are you?
Mala.
How the hell?
I'm off mute for a change. How's that for a decent start?
Look at you.
Hello. It's very nice to speak with you, Alethea. My apologies. How are you?
You said it right the first time.
Right. My mother put that silent E in my name, and so that's the standing joke. That's the only thing quiet or silent about me is that first E in my name, because I like to talk a lot.
Yeah. I love it. That's a beautiful name.
Thank you. I mean, wholesome and healing, and the light and truth of God in Greek.
I was going to ask what it meant. That's beautiful.
I sensed that somehow. No.
We're connected. I did want to ask you, I was overlooking at the Monroe Institute website. Mm-hmm. What workshops and programs do you specifically work with as an outreach trainer?
Say the last part again. What
programs did you specifically work with as an outreach trainer?
Oh, sure. So it's the Gateway Excursion is the one that I used to teach and train. It's the 2-day version of the 6-day residential class. So I would bring all the equipment and the soundtracks and the course materials to somebody's house, and 5 or 10 of their closest friends would all go through the weekend workshop together. And this way, instead of you all having to go to Virginia for the residential, I would go to California, or I would go to, I went to actually another place in Virginia once, or in New York, and I would offer the classes there. And so this way it's kind of customized at your time, your space, but it's in your space. So it's much more comfortable for people. And you don't I do the traveling. You don't have to do traveling, or the outreach trainer would do the traveling.
Wow. So the Monroe Institute has traveling teachers still too?
Oh, yeah.
That will actually come to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We could talk about that later if you want to know more. We'll help you with that.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Mala, your mic is going in and out. I didn't mean to talk over you.
Love your hair, Mala, by the way. That color is so gorgeous for you. It's just so vibrant and so like you're woo! It matches your personality energy. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very kind. But that was my question. I'll let you guys move things along.
Mala, thanks so much for everything. You're so awesome. We love you. Who's next? Katie, how are you, Katie?
Good morning.
Good morning, London.
No, Manu. I'm not in London. I'm in Yorkshire.
Sheffield.
Oh, Yorkshire.
Oh,
sorry.
Yorkshire. I thought it was Sheffield.
I thought it was
Sheffield
Leeds.
is in Yorkshire.
Okay. All right.
So it's tomorrow there. How nice.
Yes. I'm speaking to you from the future.
It's amazing.
No, I just want to say, Alethea, your aura tonight is just absolutely gorgeous. It's a really nice blend of yellow, blue, and indigo, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I just wanted to say that. But no, I was earlier on. You was talking about meditations and also like the energy, and I find that people have a lot of misconceptions about it. That there's a lot of, like you were saying about the good versus bad, and how would you dispel those misconceptions basically about, because there's a lot of people I've met anyway tend to think that when you're into like all these energies around us and you meditate, and I mean I've had it all thrown at me, right? Because I'm a witch, but it always hurts me that people just, you know, that they're very ignorant to things, and they listen to gossip. And how would you personally dispel all that?
So what I do is I actually rely on the science and I bring it up. So for example, if somebody says, oh, all that toning and chanting and oming is, you know, a ridiculous waste of time, I would say, have you been to your dentist lately? I'd be like, So have you had your teeth cleaned? They use a tool. It's called a sonic tool, and it emanates little sound waves that literally break up the plaque physically, sound waves physically impacting you. Okay, so it's not a big stretch to think, well, if something can actually, sound waves, little teeny sound waves like that can impact enough to move things physically, then it's not a big stretch to say, well, if I immerse myself in certain sound waves, my body's going to have an experience. And we've seen this, just how much cultures like music, right? There's certain music you play, it's chill out. There's other music you just can't help but move, right? And so music and sound waves literally impact our energy. So it's not a big stretch now that we have tools to actually show that. Crystals. I love crystals. I used to mine Herkimer diamonds. I love the energy of crystals. And now science proves it. You can take amethyst and you put it in a machine and you say, okay, this is the frequency of all amethyst. Here's rose quartz. Here's their frequency. Here is jade. Here's its frequency. So you can actually now show that unique stones, each family of stone has its own vibration. So it becomes the tuning fork or the lighthouse light beacon that's trying to bring into balance to that particular frequency. And we're drawn to those based on what we need. Just like we're drawn to certain music based on our need to either be, you know, slamming, jamming and getting shit done, pardon me, or, you know, chilling out and relaxing, right? Or being in an altered state, right? There's totally different music we would use for that. Well, there's totally different crystal vibrations that's like an energy field it's creating that's going to be helpful for us in healing our heart after a breakup, or grounding and transmuting any negative energy at work because there was a big layoff, or if there's a relationship that needs to be worked on, I want to transmute it. Well, maybe that purple vibration of an amethyst is going to be very helpful, or tanzanite is going to be very helpful because tanzanite combines both the purple of transformation and the blue of communication and expression and creativity, right? So when you start looking at the science behind each of the fields, you can say, oh, well, you know, this energy aura layer thing makes sense. And like the colors that you told me my aura was made total sense to me because of what I'm doing. So yellow in predominant color in an aura is that of the teaching vibration. Well, that's a big part of who I am. I'm about teaching and sharing. Purple is about transmuting. I'm in Sedona. It's a great vortex for all kinds of things to happen. And I'm speaking to you. So that blue color is from the throat chakra, which is also there. So it makes total sense that the energies that people that are clairvoyant enough to perceive them in the role that I'm playing in this moment is going to be much more those predominant colors because of the role that I'm playing right now. If I shifted into my Reiki master healing mode and started running energy to share energy, you would start to see two other colors come in. You would start to see green and you would start to see like a magenta, which is part of that ruby ray that the healing comes in. So science is what helps us, right? And so it's not just the airy fairy. I feel like it. I read about it in ancient cultures. If they did it, it must still be able to be done. It's like, well, they did it in ancient cultures without the technology. We do it now with the technology. So it's not a big stretch to say it's part of our human potential and DNA to be able to do it. We just forgot how. The technology took over and we got lazy. We didn't need to figure out which cave has the saber-toothed tiger in it anymore, because there are no saber-toothed tigers left, right? Mm-hmm. So we haven't had to rely on it and enhance it as much. But we have the science in these days and age. Even the crystal, like when they say it stores energy, because I'll hold on to a crystal. Like, it holds on to energy. It holds on to information. Well, our computers use silicon chips. Those are crystals. To do what? To store information, right? The shavings of crystals are used in lasers to magnify and focus energy, right? So when you read about the Lemurian culture or the Atlantean culture or some of the indigenous cultures using crystals for healing purposes, to store record keepers, to be a laser, to run healing energy,
it's actually more ignorant to not think that somehow beings of this earth are going to be affected by trees and life and stones and things of this earth. That's more ignorant to me than to say that it's that's some kind of satanic.
Well, think about everything like colors of your clothing, colors, decor in your homes. Where do you like to live?
How that makes you feel?
Yeah. Flowers, no flowers, but like what? There's a vibration to everything. Entities and vibration and energy is part of everything.
Look, my life got infinitely better 8 years ago. A voodoo, I don't know what you call him. I guess a voodoo priest in New Orleans gave me this little sack, and he did this ritual around me, and he gave me a sack that represented my ancestors. And so I carry that sack around. And once I started tuning into my ancestors, it makes sense that the DNA, the living body that I am here right now is actually a son of 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 a daughter of a son, going all the way back. All those lifetimes are still here.
Right.
Like I'm affected by those things. And of course, those things that made me would want the best for me. Why would they not? Right. So once I started focusing,
and you're all part of the same cosmic experience, right?
But as soon as I started to actually try to tune into my ancestors and ask them for help and ask them for care, I've had a much better life since that day. So
sure,
you could, you can't scientifically prove that, but actually, I bet you could. Just take a lot of experiments.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we can actually physically change our DNA. Like if you have alcoholism in your family, in the Bible it says 7 generations or something.
Well, we have epigenetics now. Epigenetics get turned on or off based on what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're focused on, right? So if you're trying to invoke 7 generations worth of, hey, great grandpa was an amazing artist. Hey, can I get a little bit of that, please? I want to bring some of that through. Why not? You got it in your DNA. And if it's just dormant, it's just, you got to turn that switch, flip that switch on.
What do you think has caused what Katie's talking about? The sort of like, I don't want to look at anything outside of anything that's quote unquote normal and boring.
Honestly, I think it's a combination of just ignorance, just they don't know what they don't know, fear, and lack of control. They don't want to lose control.
And
when
don't let my reality change. I've got it all.
When you are understanding you are part of this cosmic sea, and who you are is just a small part of, but it's enough of a part because it's part of the all. It's like the ocean. I'm a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be incomplete without my drop. Who am I? I'm a drop in an ocean. There's times I'm perceiving myself as drop. There's other times I'm perceiving myself as part of this amazing ocean. Which is true? Where am I in the moment?
I am here to tell you saber-toothed tigers still exist.
Oh, did your kitty just
hell out of me?
Kitty just got kitty. Wasn't getting enough love.
Thank you, Katie. I saw your comment earlier too. I was gonna read it, but it's hard sometimes to read the comments because people are speaking on. I hope people saw it, but you said it anyway. All right, let's take the next caller. We're running really late now. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Sammy,
what's up?
Hello. So I have some trouble with visualization and meditation, and I think in part it's because I'm autistic. So do you have any advice or tips?
Okay. What is your best modality? Are you good at hearing things? Are you good at smelling and tasting? Are you good at feeling things physically in you?
Hearing things.
Okay. So rely on that strength for your visualization. Would be, what is the story that you would tell yourself? So if you were to see something visually, what would your narrator be describing to you? So you don't actually have to literally see it. Allow your higher self narrator to describe what the picture is. So lean on your stronger modality first, and then little by little, it becomes like they're telling you the story, like, oh yeah, and then there's a giraffe, and oh wow, that giraffe has a purple tutu around its neck. What the hell is that doing there? I don't know. But you can just don't block the flow. What happens is a lot of people get frustrated because they expect is the second they open, it's like ta-da, and it's more like opening that hose for the first time after the winter, and you turn it on, it's like, and the air all has to run out first, and then it starts with a trickle, and then eventually you get the whole thing going. So when you're opening up to messages from spirit and channeling as such, you want to let it flow as much as possible in the easiest modality for you first, and then you can start to blend it with others. What you don't want to do is get frustrated and stop it and question it while it's happening, because that'll for sure shut down anybody having anything coming through. It's like there'll be plenty of time later to say, does this make sense? Is it reasonable? Did it give me comfort, guidance, whatever it is that you were looking for or the client needed that you were working on behalf of?
That's my problem, Sammy. Every time I try to meditate, I just get angry. I can't quiet my mind, and it just pisses me off. And then I just find myself more angry. And then I'm like, okay, no, breathe, watch the breath go in and out. Just go back to no. And then my girlfriend is blah, blah, blah. It's another thought. Shut up. And then I just want to punch things. I can't meditate. Never been able to do it.
Well, guided meditation is helpful because it keeps your mind busy. And I don't look at channeling and meditation as the same, actually, Manu. I don't.
Oh, me either. I was just.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm a very busy minded person. Like when they put the brainwave stuff on me, I have a lot more gamma than the average going, so I'm always thinking, going. But that was useful because that higher speed of brainwave is why I think I can see certain things and perceive certain things, because my engine just revs a little faster than the average bear. That's how I was wired.
And Sammy knows that she says she's autistic, right? So she must have some tools that most people don't have.
Well, that's why I asked you, Sammy, what is your best modality? Because whenever one is disadvantaged in any way, then the others compensate and become more refined and more reliable. So instead of saying, well, heck, I can't see, and I'm getting frustrated because I can't see, do you realize what you're hearing? You're like having somebody read you the most amazing information. And because you weren't seeing it, you didn't get it. It's like, get it, write it down, see it that way, visualize it after you hear it. Like somebody telling you a story, right? You don't have to see it when you're going along with it. You can be a second right behind. I heard it. Oh, now that happened. And then that happened. Oh, okay. Now I'm following along. So a lot of times when it first starts happening for people, you feel like you're making it up, except you start to learn the difference between where is my voice inside my head versus the voice of spirit talking to me, because they're perceived in different places. And once you learn to discern what's my own voice talking to me versus the voice of spirit talking to me, then you can have much more confidence in what's coming through you, that you're being a clear filter. You're not influencing it by your own bias. Does that make sense?
Have you read all those books behind you, Sammy?
I've read a good third of them at least.
That's cool. That's about how many I've read on my shelf too. All right. Thanks for your question, Sammy. Who's next? Thanks for coming on.
It's the Legacy.
Zach. Oh, put his last name up. Crazy. Zach.
Crazy times.
What do you have for Alethea, the psychic extraordinaire?
Well, first off, how's everybody's evening going? The question I have is, I don't know, a bunch of them. You were talking about how your brain races and all that. That's how I am too. So
yeah, and
like, you get one, and then you're like, oh, hold up, maybe. But I guess one question I have is, what is your take on the Enneagram and personality traits, and could that be something that ties into like ancestral or even spiritual realm?
Oh, sure. I
What's
believe
an
a lot
Enneagram?
of the Enneagram.
What is it?
It's a tool, prognostication tool. It's think of it like astrology, but it has to do more with and numerology. It's one of those in the fields. It's looking at your history and your personality traits based on certain other characteristics. So I believe there's a lot to each of those tools, whether it's going back to the I Ching or astrology or the numerology or the Enneagram. They all have a basis in they're solid tools. So I tell people, go to the one that you feel drawn to, that makes sense to you, that resonates with you. When you read the writing, when you flip open to yours and you read it and you're like, oh, dang, that describes me to a T. Yep, you found the right tool for you. You found the right match. If you read some numerology thing and you're like, that doesn't really sound like me. Or you read your horoscope and you're like, no, that's not me. Okay. But you might find a tool that really does help you because it's based on a lot of repetition and study and patterns and trends that people have used it to create those different systems. So it's really more about finding a system that resonates with you totally. But there's truth in, there's pretty much the truth is out there.
So yeah, an Enneagram, I still don't get it. Is a Enneagram, it's like a tool like tarot cards are a tool. It's a tool like numerology is a tool. It's a
yeah. That's how I
How do you spell it?
Enneagram?
Yeah. Because I'm like all I'm getting is anagram. Oh, it starts with an E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ENAO? No.
AE.
EN.
Yeah. GRAM.
AEGRA.
Something like that.
Cool. New stuff. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a personality test.
Yeah.
So is Enneagram sort of like the however many types of humans there
it's
are
like
and how they meet up?
Like the Myers-Briggs. There's a whole bunch of it. But again, with any of these, I look at it as kind of more like scientific or modern types of systems or tools, right? So you could just as well go to the Enneagram and read about yourself as being a perfectionist, or you can go to the astrology and say, oh, I'm really a Virgo and I'm really into organizing. And, so a Virgo would match up with the perfectionist, which might go to somebody who is a number 2 on numerology because they're constantly trying to sort out and bring to balance two opposite parts, and it's frustrating for them.
And you said the Briggs-Myers, and I was thinking the otter, the lion, the golden retriever. I think I was a golden retriever when I did it.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I one time took a bunch of DMT, and when I came out of the DMT and I jumped back into my own body after being colors and sounds and everything, I was at a hippie rainbow gathering, and a fucking big old forest fire broke out at a camp right in front of me. The gasoline that they were using for the kitchen lit up 3 trees, and these 3 trees just poof went on. And I was just back from DMT, so like just back in my body, and are we gonna all burn to death? And I looked around at all the humans next to me, and some humans were alpha males and they were barking orders at other humans, go get the water, get a bucket. And some people were like duh kind of people that were like, oh, okay, bucket, And I realized that we do all have these different personalities, but they all serve a purpose, especially when there's a fire, because we all those different people got together in a big old line and attacked this thing. And the alpha males were at the front with the buckets climbing that fucking tree. And I was just sitting there like tripping off my DMT going, wow, like there is a reason for everyone.
Well, you have the drivers, the expressives, the amiables,
Yeah. And we needed every single one of those types to solve that situation. It was fun. Anyway, that's my story. I had to relate to Enneagram somehow. But I'm going to look into that. So that's like a personality thing. That's cool. Zach, you got any more questions?
No, it's pretty interesting. I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical about it, but I mean, it's pretty interesting.
I see an Enneagram personality test. I'm taking it as soon as this show's over, just to see what happens. Well, I'll tell you what happens, Zach.
You're probably a 4.
I'm a 4. You think?
Yeah.
All right. I'm down.
Or a 5. I don't know.
Are there 12? Are there 12 types? How many are there?
9, I think.
I think there's 9. Yeah, it's either 9 or 10.
All right. Well, I'll decide whether to be offended or not
There's
next week.
9. There's 9.
Man.
Yeah. But thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Cool question.
We only have one more caller left. That's
All
it.
right.
We got
Dave Prime.
Well, since Chris isn't here, what's up?
What's up?
Well, he's here chatting, but yeah, I think you were talking about like crystals being storage devices. My brain immediately went to like Stargate, the Stargate series, where they use like crystals as storage devices. So there's like a bit of fantasy into fact there, I think.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of the ancient civilizations. Well, in the Superman series, right? The crystals that puts in there, and that activates the cave and activates the different holograms and the information. So we see some of that in the movie genres, and we read about them in some of the ancient wisdom texts. So, like I said, it's not a big stretch to think one of these days somebody's going to re-access the key. The key's just been lost. That's all. The key to figure out. And when I was meditating on this once, not that long ago, I got the key is the key. Like there's actual musical keys or resonance keys or frequency keys that are going to be what helps to unlock it, not just, that construct of a door and a lock. Because it's like, I know I have a couple crystals at home that I know they're a library. They're not just a book. They're a library. I hold that sucker and I'm like, someday we're going to know what's in you. I know I can read your energy. I can read the information around people. It's not that big a stretch. It's like just learning a new language, like I'm trying to decipher, but I know that if it's happened, we know it's happened before without the tools. We can do it now with different technology and tools. So I'm thinking it's not going to be that long until we have that consciousness shift back to remembering. I think we were intentionally confounded. The Tower of Babel. If you think back to the Bible, well, was that really when the aliens came after the flood and said, okay, we're going to shorten the time. We don't want you banding together so that you can figure things out. And
we'll keep you separated. And
so was that all part of the plan of keep everybody separate because together you're too strong, you're too smart, you'll figure things out. So let's make you all talk different languages. Because if you're not talking the same language, you don't understand each other. Well, then, you can't be one. But if we get back to that oneness vibe and that heart space and that entering into that expanded consciousness and seeing what comes through, I think that we'll get information from crystals, from plants, from animals. Animals can be telepathic. Well, why can't the crystal or the tree? We just
the Egyptians thought that the cats were the guardians of the underworld, right? I think my cat all the time does things that dead friends do. All the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like my cat will get up and play the piano for a second and look at me like my buddy Blake, who used to play the piano, and I'll be like, what the fuck? Blake is saying hi through my cat. That shit happens to me all the time.
And if you've had cats or dogs that have passed on, there'll be times when you hear, like I had this happen to me after my dog Panther died in New York. I was up in my bedroom and putting someone in my closet, and I hear on the stairs her paw prints running up her footsteps running up the stairs, the jingling of her collar. I'm like, oh, hi, Pan. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. She's been gone a few months. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's here. Or I'm on
in my last apartment, I had a ghost cat. We literally both me and Valerie would be sleeping, and we had our cat, but we would feel another one like curl up next to our leg, and I'd be like, "What was that?" Oh, that was the ghost cat.
Yeah, their spirits endure. What's really cool about animals, and I've come to know this pretty recently, that through our love and interacting with the cats and the dogs, they get to individuate as spirit. So they start, oh, hello, sweetheart. Oh, how cute. What a little chihuahua. Hello.
A chihuahua. There, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
What's the chihuahua's name? Who is that?
What's his name?
No, her name. Oh, okay. So she's when we got her when she was just a few weeks old, we thought she was a Chihuahua Dachshund mix. Okay. So we're like, Chihuahua Dachshund. How about Spanish sausage? So we named her Choriza.
Choriza. Oh, okay.
So she's a girl, so she's Choriza with an A.
Choriza.
But then but we just call her Chody now. And the other one is Callie because she likes to bite and scratch, so she's caliente. She's really spicy.
They are so cool. They bring us so much joy and life and energy.
It's unconditional love that they receive from us, right? That's what we look for. Somebody to see us, be with us, receive the gift of who we are. And they do that unconditionally. And that's part of why we love them. But what they get back is individuation out of group consciousness. So there is dog consciousness. When you love Teresa. When you love Teresa and you've made that connection, now she has an individuated soul consciousness spirit. She's no longer part of dog collective. She is now Teresa. And that's part of her spirit will always be with you and connected to you, whether you or she is on the other side of the veil. It's all still connected. And
I must have pissed her off yesterday because she shit on the bed, and I don't know what she was trying to tell me. I'm not joking. I actually had to clean it yesterday.
Yeah, they do that.
But she's 15. She's 15 years old, so maybe she's saying,
"Hey, I'm getting old."
Hear your question, Dave?
Well, no,
sorry, Dave.
And I was kind of like leading into because I don't know if you saw it or not. Every time that Tyson kind of put Callie to the side, bam, she's right back up in his lap again.
Oh, I toss her over my head, and she comes back 30 times.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We just had a cat die. Sorry, Dave. I'm doing it again. But this was Valerie's cat, and she loved this cat so much. It saved her life in her 20s when she was going through shit. And
it wasn't Brew, was it?
No, it was Wicket. But Brew suddenly started behaving like Wicket that day. Like I met Wicket. I spent a couple weeks with him at her parents' house. And Brew would never do certain things that he started doing that day, the day after Wicket died. So I know that these things somehow can bring in each other's spirits and have some magic sense of the other life. Because Brew would never come up to you and meow at you and ask you for something. She couldn't even meow. She would just go. That was like the only sound Brew would ever make. Wicket would come right up to you and start going meow, 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 meow. Now Brew, as soon as Wicket died, is coming straight up to us and talking at us, and she never used to do that. So it's pretty neat.
That can also be part of the respect of the pack dynamic, that certain dogs or cats will behave one way, and then once the perceived alpha or the leader is gone.
But it was in a completely different state.
Yeah, but they're free to energetically do that. They're all connected, right?
Yeah, I think they are.
And a lot of times the cat or dog that's passed will help you find the new cat or dog that's coming into your life. They'll help to send one to you or help that coincidence happen so that you can meet just the perfect one that you would swear is like the little brother or the little sister, the one that was just there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave. I can attest to what Mano's saying about Brew, because on several occasions since God, it's been a year now that I've moved here to Colorado Springs. I've watched his cat when he and Val go to LA for whatever business reasons and stuff. The first time it took like 5 days for Brew to actually approach me. Let's say I'd leave out food for her, everything fine and good. But like after that 5th day, I say now she comes up right up to me right away whenever I have to watch her and whatnot.
And she'll lay down and purr, but she wouldn't talk. And
oh yeah,
as soon as Wicket died.
But
well, you know the old saying with dogs and cats, right? So dogs have their pack and their leaders, right? And cats basically have staff.
Yeah, and like
dogs have masters, cats have staff.
But no, I've had people that say, "Can I pet your dog?" It's like, "Oh, I don't know. The dogs would be very skittish, but the dog is just like gloms right on to me all the time." It's very rare. Exactly, it's very rare that a dog would be skittish around me.
Your cats and dogs will tell you a lot about a person. So if you have somebody come into your home and your cat or dog goes hiding or they seem aggressive, that should tell you an awful lot about that person.
Listen
or
to
if they say, "Oh, my cat never loves anybody," and they're there rubbing on your leg and coming up into you, oh, well, that's probably somebody that you could probably be friends with. You know, the cat has approved, right?
But
my dad is a total asshole, and every dog that he runs into hates him.
But the main reason why I want to ask you a question tonight was it says on your website that you're a massage practitioner as well.
Yes, I was.
You were. Okay.
I still can do certain bits. I got hit by a car, so I can only do certain things from the seated position now versus I used to do Thai massage, for example, and you're down on your knees and you're bending people in all kinds of positions. No, so the only massage I can still do for people is reflexology. So I can get to their head, their hands, and their feet from seated, and so I can still do that. But that's the beginning of energy, right? You can feel things in the physical body, you can feel things in the etheric body, and we start going out to the different layers of the aura energetically that way. And what's your question, Dave? Sorry.
Well, I'll say because like I got a constant knot in my right hip, and I'm just visualizing. Are you like talking to that? I mean, when you were doing that, are you talking to certain knot, saying like, "Be gone"? Why are you not going away? It's just
okay. More likely, I would be asking you. I would say so. If let's say I'm working on you, and my hands would be drawn to that area because there's something going on, I would say to you, "Okay, Dave, what comes to your awareness when you think of your hip and this tightness or this knot? What's the first thing that pops into your awareness? Either a memory, an emotion, a feeling, a thought. What comes to you?" And then,
I think it comes to when I was a teenager. I had a 30-pound camera on my shoulder, so I shifted my weight to my right. So now I just got that knot there all the time.
Okay, so there's a compensation pattern. Right, that you have physically, but you also have an energetic block or lock. So when you think back to, and we would go through a lot more levels of this if we were actually working on this, but in general, what you want to do is you want to be in touch with what is the emotion or the energy that got locked or blocked at that time. So it could have been frustration at the progression of the job not turning out how you wanted it to be, or it's not turning into the career you wanted it to be, or that kind of thing that like, okay, I devoted so much of this time and training and it should have gone to here and here and it didn't. And so what that block represents is more of the resentment maybe, right? But
15 years of TV production and all I got is this bum hip.
Right.
No,
I can't figure that out for you, but I can help hold the space as the practitioner or the massage therapist or the healer, right? I can help hold the space and help hold your attention and energy on that space to facilitate you figuring out, oh, this is what it was. This is what I need to do to release it. If it's a conscious letting go, there's tools that we have that we can, dive deeper into, look at it and bring it to conscious awareness. But most people, if they have a sore part on their body and you say, put your hands on that knee. Okay, feel that knee. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Something's going to pop in there that's useful. And it's like, oh, I really resented all those years. I was on my knees in Catholic school and whatever, right? All those sisters who, you know, made me think about men in a certain way, whatever, right? Who knows?
And that's the place that internet has really let us down too, because massages are really nice, and we can't massage each other through the internet.
Oh yeah.
Because I've heard the term massage 10 times now, and now like I'm aching everywhere. My legs, my knees. I want a massage so bad right now. I'm gonna go home and beg for one from my heterosexual life.
Barter, baby, barter. There's things you can do for her too.
Oh, barter, that's a good idea.
Barter's a beautiful thing.
Do something in return. That would be smart.
Exactly.
No, but honestly, I think you really hit something on the head there, because when I was doing it when I was 15 till I was 21, I'd say it was just a small market TV station in central Idaho. I moved to Seattle thinking, man, I got 5 years experience under my belt. I'm going to apply for one of the TV stations out here. The CBS affiliate didn't interview me. The NBC, the ABC, none of them would even give me an interview because I didn't have a college degree. So I had like a level of resentment, just like, God, I got the skills. I got the knowledge. And they're not even giving me a chance to run the freaking teleprompter, which is what I started out with.
You should have just made yourself a fake college degree and lied. That's what they do in Hollywood.
So Dave, just as a follow-on, so once you identify, okay, so let's just say it is resentment that's there, what do you need to do to release that? So you need to forgive yourself for not having the college degree that you talked yourself out of needing, and then in hindsight, that might have helped. Forgive the jerks who wouldn't even give you the time of day. Be grateful that didn't work out, because the things that did work out brought you to the person you are today and what you've accomplished today, which would not have happened if you wind up getting one of those slots on the TV, the 6 o'clock news, right? So once you kind of go back and heal that from an energetic perspective, it's kind of like, it's like pulling the splinter out. It might still be sore there until that heals, because it's been in there for a while, but that chronic acute achy pain is gone because you've removed the source of it, and that can allow that healing to happen.
And go to Amazon and buy Alethea Jacob's book and get yourself a back roller and work on that knot a little bit.
I got a massage gun.
You've been wonderful. Use the massage gun as well. Dave, you've been wonderful. Thanks for sticking around with us this whole time. It's been a really long show, but I've really enjoyed it. Alethea, you've been wonderful. Thanks for stopping by. All of our listeners, thanks for your questions. We'll see you next week on Dangerous Thoughts.
Peace. Hey, is that legal? Hey, is that legal?
Those level 4 plates?
Yeah, we need to go.
Okay, yeah.
Take it to him. Ruining motivation to survive. Our side is like a jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue, you need collapse in the weight. Hey, gorilla hearted, I beat in my chest to stay alive. Take it to him. Ruining motivation to survive. Our side is like a jungle holding rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue, you need collapse in the weight. Hey, gorilla hearted, I beat in my chest to stay alive. Hey.